With me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to this Louie T Network exclusive week 2 of the preseason recap. A lot of good action this week. I told you this preseason was going to be a lot more compelling than recent years past because there's a lot more young players in the league, specifically at the quarterback position. A lot of new head coaches coming into the league and wanting to make sure that they push their players. And to me, I can't stress this enough. One of my favorite things to say when it comes to sports in general, but particularly football, there's only one way to get better at football. That's to play football. Okay. So, practice and joint practices are cool and they're very helpful. And you get a lot of great work in and you work on situational football and all of that is fine and dandy. But nothing can prepare you for actual tackle football like tackle football, right? There's a clock that you have to take into consideration, not the practice clock that you're acting as if exists, right? But an actual real clock that happens, in real timeouts that have to be taken, and real decisions that have to happen. To me, preseason games aren't just for players, they're also for coaches, right? Now, the coaches can't whittle their way out of a preseason game like players can, or not necessarily players making that decision, but you have to be still responsible. I've watched some preseason games this year where I felt like coaches dropped the ball. Like, you should have challenged that. And I get it. It's a preseason game. You really don't give a shit. And you want it to just hurry up and be over. And you want to get out of here injury-free. I get all of that. But as a coach, your job never stops. And if you're in the first quarter of the second preseason game of the offseason and there's a bad call that impacts your team, you need to challenge that. But anyway, I digress. Let's get into week 2. A lot of teams decided, and to me, if we're going to see a lot of starters, this was the week we were going to see them. Week 1, okay, I get it. First preseason game. There's still 2 more to go. Don't want to put my starters out there. I get it. Week 3, it's too close to the season. I get it if you don't want to put your starters out there. I would recommend you don't put your starters out there for week 3 of the preseason. Some teams think they're slick, like the Jets saying that they're going to play Aaron Rodgers in week 3 of the preseason. Oh, you know you're going to get the other team's backup, so you want Aaron Rodgers in the Jets' first-team offense to get some confidence. So you put them out there against some guys that are fighting for their NFL lives, and you throw them out there. They should go out there and blaze those boys, and now you go into week 1 against Buffalo bubbling with confidence. You think you're slick. I see the bullshit you're trying to pull. But what happens if it works in reverse? You go out there and you get a mud hole stomped in you by some second and third stringers. Then what? Anyway, I digress. To me, third week of preseason, I get it if you don't want to play your guys. However, week 2 is the new week 3. It's the new dress rehearsal week. So I expected to see quite a few teams trot their first team offense out there, their defense out there for at least a possession or two, just to see how they fare with some real game action. And that's what we got. So let's start with a game that was very compelling because the number 1 overall pick, anytime he's on the field, we're going to take notice. Carolina Panthers at the New York Giants. Last week, the Giants opted to not play their starters. No harm, no foul there. Not really upset about that. Week 2, they threw Daniel Jones and this new look Giants offense out on the field. We saw our first look at Darren Waller in a Giants uniform. He's sporting the 12. We saw Paris Campbell out in the Giants uniform. We saw their rookie wide receiver out there catch a touchdown pass. So we saw a lot of those new weapons that they're going to feature this year on full display. But Giants get the win 21-19 first and foremost. I thought they were sharp on offense. Daniel Jones looked excellent on that one possession that he played. Utilized his legs, as we know he's fully capable of doing. Found Darren Waller time after time. But what that shows me is that he's going to be a huge part of the offense. They better pray that he doesn't get hurt because he's going to be their mismatch nightmare. And that's what the NFL is all about, creating mismatches. And Darren Waller, when healthy, we've already talked about this. When healthy, he's probably the second best pass-catching tight end in all of football, right behind Travis Kelce. All right. Kittle is up there. Obviously, Mark Andrews is up there. But I think when Waller's right, there isn't anyone better except for Travis Kelce. So getting him was a big get. And only having this fork over like a third-round pick or whatever it was practically stealing if he's healthy. He's healthy. He's happy. I think he just got married in the offseason. There's a lot going right in his life, and he's playing good football. He looked excellent on that drive. Paris Campbell had a catch as well. Their speedster, second-round pick, Jalen Hyatt, had a touchdown pass from Tyrod Taylor that he caught. So all's well that ends well for the Giants. That drive had a couple of penalties. They overcame those penalties and ultimately found the end zone. I think it was Daniel Bellinger, the tight end, with the catch. And that was it for the first-team offense. And I'd say it was a really good show. And that's exactly, if you are Brian Daboll and that Giant staff, that's exactly what you wanted to see. In and out, one drive, touchdown. Let's get our guys out of there. They're done for the preseason. We won't see them again until week number 1 at home versus the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Meanwhile, for the Carolina Panthers, week 1 with their offense was kind of helter-skelter. It left a lot to be desired because that offensive line, I thought, didn't do a good enough job of protecting their number 1 overall pick in Bryce Young. And so it was limited sample size. I think he was out there for 2 possessions. They barely, threw the ball. I shouldn't say that. I think they threw it like 7 times. But nonetheless, he was under duress the entire game. It wasn't a really good representation of what they want to do. Obviously, there is no game planning for these games. Keep that in mind as well. But I thought this week was much better. I thought they protected a little bit better. He did take a sack in the red zone. However, they moved the football down the field. And they were able to get in the field goal range and end the drive. I mean, they self-destructed. They looked like they were trying to go score a touchdown. And then they imploded on the drive with like 3 straight penalties. And they went from like first and, I think it ended up being like a 2nd and 4 from like the Giants 17. And then they ended up like 2nd and 34, 3rd and 34, some craziness like that because of all of the mistakes that they made. So I think it was a sack and a couple of penalties. And next thing you know, it's 3rd and 34 or whatever. So I thought he played well, he being Bryce Young. He made some really good throws from the pocket, escaped, showed that athleticism that he was known for at Alabama, made some pinpoint accurate throws under duress in the pocket. He's a smaller guy, so sometimes that's not the easiest thing to do. He showed just a flash of why he was the number 1 overall pick and why I think he's going to be really good for them when it's all said and done. They've got to protect him better, though. Kayvon Thibodeau came unblocked. And again, if he was looking for the football, he probably could have gotten it out. But nonetheless, all in all, much better showing than week 1 for that Panthers offense. And they left him out there quite a bit. I think he might have been out there for the entire first half was Bryce Young. So they really wanted to see what he could do. Or I might be mixing up my 2 rookies. It might have been CJ Stroud who played the entire first half. I know he played the first half against the Dolphins, but nonetheless, I felt like this was a much better showing for Bryce Young than in week 1 when I thought they struggled mightily behind him, protecting him. So Bengals at the Falcons. This game ended in a 13-all tie. That's one of the better rules that they enacted this year going into the preseason was all games are going to end at the end of the 4th quarter. There's no overtime in preseason. Nobody wants to play extra preseason football. Okay. So whatever the score is after 4 quarters of ball, that's the score. If it's tied, we're just tied. End of discussion. So this game ended in a 13-all tie. I give you a little bit of background information though. Last week, I thought it was malpractice on the part of Falcons head coach Arthur Smith for not playing his starters last week on the offensive side of the football. I thought it was malpractice. You got a guy in Desmond Ritter who has maybe 4 starts under his belt. You've got Bijon Robinson and this new look offense. They need as much work as they can get. I don't give a shit what you're doing in practice. It can't simulate football. They should have been out there last week and they should have been out there this week. That said, they're out there this week. And I was proud of Arthur Smith for doing the right thing. That said, I went to the ESPN app and I looked to see who played and who didn't. So let me give you a piece of advice. If you don't know this already, I'll share this information with you because I think it is pertinent. Do yourself a favor, unless you're watching your favorite team, do not invest 3 hours in a preseason game if it is not your favorite team. Okay? Do yourself a favor and just watch the 30-minute cut up that they have on the ESPN or the NFL Plus app. Don't record the game on NFL Network and watch it over there. It's still the same thing. You're dedicating a 3-hour block to football that you truly don't care about. Take the parts out that you want, which will cost you every bit of 5 to 7 minutes, and get the hell out of there, right? Watch it on NFL Plus. It's free in the preseason. You can use a trial if you need to. I wouldn't use the trial in the offseason for the preseason necessarily, but generally, there's ways to find these cut-ups. A lot of times, they'll even post this stuff to YouTube, and they'll give you all of Bryce Young's plays in week 2 of the preseason. They'll give you that stuff. Don't waste your time watching 3 hours listening to the broadcast that you don't care about. They're telling you about some 8th-round pick that is getting a lot of snaps in practice that you don't give a shit about. Trust me. The best way to go about this is to just watch the cut-ups. So I went to ESPN, looked to see who played, because I'm not wasting any time on teams who didn't play their starters. So if Arthur Smith tried to pull another Houdini act again and go missing with his starters, I wasn't, because I already know Joe Burrow's not playing, right, with the calf strain. So Bengals aren't playing anybody that I need to see. So if the Falcons aren't, I can just skip this game. So I go in there, and lo and behold, Desmond Ritter played. Hey, how about that? And then I read a little article somewhere that says, Desmond Ritter, impressive debut. And I said, oh. And then I looked at his numbers, and I saw a pick, and I said, impressive, and he threw a pick. Then I said, you know what? Let me not judge this book by this cover right here, because that one interception, I don't know how it happened. He could have thrown a perfect pass, went straight through the hands of the guy that it was intended for, right into the hands of a defender that had no chance of defending the play. And that's not on him. So I said, let me just watch the game first and see how impressive Desmond Ritter was. He was impressive. Okay? He was impressive. I'm going to tell you something about this Falcons football team. Now, I ultimately don't think they're going to make enough plays to win, and they're going to make some mistakes. And, you saw the pick Ritter threw. It wasn't a terrible pick, but it's an avoidable pick. You don't force the ball in that window down inside the 5-yard line. You're asking for trouble. You have to protect the ball there. And yes, in the red zone, specifically inside the 10, you have to throw in the tight windows, but that guy wasn't open. Okay, there's a difference between a tight window where you can try to get it in there and a guy being blanketed and you still forcing it there, which is what happened on that play. Nonetheless, he used his legs. We know he's an athlete. I thought he was pretty accurate with the football. They did a really good job of moving the pocket, boots and things of that nature to get him easy throws. Kyle Pitts with a one-hand grab. Now, he was not the most accurate. Kyle Pitts made a one-hand grab on a ball that was not accurate. Bijon Robinson made a one-hand grab on a ball that was not accurate out in the flat. So not that his ball placement was always the best. However, I thought he played well, considering the circumstances. This is his first opportunity to display what they've been doing in camp this year. So what I was even more impressed with was Bijon Robinson. Like, I talked a lot of shit during the draft process about him being really good. And I told you, he's Josh Jacobs. And I said, that's really good, by the way. Like, I don't want you to feel like I'm demeaning him, but this talk of him being generational, this, that, and the third, I'm like, I don't know about all that. He's really good, but I don't think he's generational. He looked different. He looked different. Now, it's preseason. It's early. And that was the first time I saw him. Any of us have saw him in an NFL game, but he looked different. I'm just going to say that. Now, we'll see when the level of competition stiffens and teams are game planning to stop him. We'll see if he's different then, but generally different is different. And you know it when you see it. Now, his very first carry, I was like, oh, okay. Wow. All right. Yeah, that's different. Yeah. So I got to see more, but he looked different. His first carry was dynamic. It was explosive. He made 2 guys miss in the span of like 7 steps. All of this, like, kind of just in the hole. You're like, huh, interesting. So that offense has a chance to be really dynamic. When you look, like, all they're really missing, and I could be missing a guy that's there that I'm not aware of right now, but all they're really missing is that element of speed, because they got Kyle Pitts, they got Drake London, You got Bijon Robinson. Like, that's enough to affect change in a game right there, because you got one at each level, wide receiver, tight end, running back. All they need is a guy who can take the top off the defense. I'm pretty sure there's somebody on that roster that can run really, really fast. Cordero Patterson, but he's not much of a deep threat. But they just need a guy that can just flat out run. They got one of those because Drake London's more of a possession guy. Kyle Pitts is your mismatch nightmare. You can line him up anywhere and he'll win. Bijan Robinson out of the backfield can catch it. He can run it. You just need that one guy when they fall asleep because they're focusing on Kyle Pitts or they're focusing in on Drake London, that somebody just runs right by a safety or somebody just runs one-on-one outside, runs right by a corner. That's all they need, really. And can Ritter consistently get it there to him? We'll see. But I thought it was a solid showing for that Falcons first team offense. They could be a problem this year. They play in a bad division. We'll see what happens. I like what I saw. I didn't love what I saw. I like what I saw a little bit more than I thought I would. 13-13 tie there. Jags and Lions, nothing to see here. Neither of those teams played their starters, so we move on. This was another big one for the weekend. Dolphins, Texans. It's our second look at a rookie quarterback, number 2 overall pick, CJ Stroud out of the Ohio State University. The first game against the Patriots was a disaster, if you ask me. The protection was horrible. He looked overwhelmed and overmatched. The rain didn't help. It wasn't a great performance. That said, this game couldn't have started any better. The Dolphins played their starters. They got a pick on the very first play that the Texans defense. CJ Stroud takes the field inside the Dolphins' 15-yard line. I'm like, what more could you ask for? Hey, go out and get a touchdown, get you some confidence. This is great. And they ran maybe 4 plays. Most of them were runs. He threw it twice, I think. So I think they ran about 5 plays. He threw it twice, and neither of those throws were any good. One was particularly horrible out in the flats to a wide open fullback, and he just short-armed it. And I go, pretty inauspicious start. This isn't really good, CJ. This is kind of a continuation from last week. I need you to look better than this. And then from that point on, he looked like the number 2 overall pick in the draft. I thought after that opening possession, it's almost as if he wasn't ready to come on the field. He was still kind of giving himself a pep talk because the defense was on the field first, and he was still kind of getting himself ready to go on the field. And then they got the turnover on the very first play. Tua gets picked off, and he's like, oh, shit, we got to go on the field. Where's my helmet? And he wasn't ready, and he gets on the field, and it looked like a guy that wasn't ready. But after he had a chance to settle down, heart rate gets up a little bit. That stabilizes. I thought he looked really good. He showed the mobility. He showed the escapability, the ability to throw on the move, the accuracy that we talked about during the draft process. Like, this guy is pinpoint accurate. When he's locked in, there aren't many that can put the ball where it needs to be on a rope in a tight window like CJ Stroud. And I saw that in this game. So there are a lot of positives from this game for CJ Stroud. Still a lot of work needs to be done. All right. And they still got some things to figure out. But this was a much better, similar to Bryce Young, much better showing in week 2. Much better. He played the entire first half. And I love that from DeMeco Ryans. The only way CJ Stroud is going to get better is to continue to play football. This 1-2 drive shit, when you got a number 2 overall pick that is the face of your franchise that you hope is going to be able to stabilize a position that is the most important in the sport for the next decade plus, he needs to play. And that offensive line in front of him, they need to gel. They need to be more cohesive. Put them out there. Let them play. They played the whole first half. I loved it. And if I don't see him next week, I'm fine with that. Absolutely fine with that. The Dolphins played Tua and company. It was, like I said, it was not a great start. Tua's first pass, he rolls out to his left and throws it right to the linebacker. He never saw him. He undercuts it, picks it off. And after that, Tua settled in. They moved it down the field. The running game became a big fixture. Tua got really comfortable. They got him some quick, easy throws to get him back into the swing of things. And they were able to move it down the field and score a touchdown. So no harm, no foul there. The Dolphins look good. The Texans, I thought, showed well. And that was a really good opportunity for CJ Stroud to get better. And I thought he took full advantage of it. Bills at the Steelers. This was a really good game because I wanted to see if Kenny Pickett and that Steelers offense could pick right up where they left off last week, where they just steamrolled. I forgot who the opponent was last week, but they went right down the field and scored and made it look easy. I think it was Tampa Bay, and they went right down the field and scored. And so this week you were getting Josh Allen. He was going to play this week. You're getting the Bills' first team defense. Let's see what you got. And they went out on the field on the first possession. I think Kenny Pickett might have thrown 2 passes, and then they handed it off to Jaylen Warren, and he scored like a 62-yard touchdown. And I'm like, he's not fast enough to outrun the defense. And where's the safety? The safety comes over, and he outruns the safety, Jordan. I think it was Jordan Poyer. I'm like, damn, you're slow. Jordan Poyer's getting up there in age, too, and it showed on that play. But Jaylen Warren scores, and I'm like, okay, that's nice. 7-0. The defense then promptly comes out, shuts down Josh Allen and the Bills, forces them to punt. Okay, that's nice. They get the ball back on offense, and Kenny Pickett shreds them. I mean, first of all, they had tremendous field position because they pinned them deep. And so when they punted the ball, they ended up getting really good field position. I think they even might have gotten a nice little return from Calvin Austin at some point in the game. Did the Steelers. I mean, everything's working for them right now in the preseason. I hope this carries over into the regular season because special teams, offense, and defense right now are kicking ass for them. And Kenny Pickett comes in the game and right away throws a dime. I'm talking about there's 3 Bill defenders. He couldn't have put this ball anywhere else. On the back shoulder of Pat Freiermuth running up the seam. There's a defender in front of him, one over the top and one slightly behind or a little bit further behind. And he throws it behind Pat Freiermuth, makes him adjust away from the defender in front of him before the safety on top of him can do anything about it. And Freiermuth turns, reacts to it, catches it, and kind of backpedals his way into the end zone. Kenny Pickett right now, man, he's got laser-like focus right now. He's in the zone. They've got weapons around him. Look, I already told you, the Steelers are my surprise team this year. I got them making the playoffs. I wouldn't be shocked if they competed, for that division when it's all said and done, especially if Burrow isn't right this year, right? If this calf thing ends up lingering and becoming a real problem, look out for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know it's preseason. I don't want to overreact, but I already thought before I saw them one time in the preseason, I already thought they were going to be a good team this year. They're looking even better than I could have imagined thus far, but we'll see. Week 1 against San Francisco, that'll be a nice little test for them as they get the season kicked off. Meanwhile, for the Bills, it's a pretty ugly performance, but again, I'm not tripping. It's the Bills. We know what they're about. I still have questions about their offense because, again, they haven't looked the same since Brian Daboll departed, okay? They had stretches last year where they looked like the Bills, but they're still trying to figure some shit out on offense with Ken Dorsey as their offensive coordinator. They better figure it out fast, okay? Because the rest of the AFC is catching up, okay? They're not – it's not the NFC where it's kind of like stagnant, maybe even taking a step back because some of the big-time quarterbacks are leaving the conference. The rest of that conference is catching up with you. You got to keep your foot on the gas. All gas, no brakes. Again, this is why you play football in the preseason because they didn't look sharp. And you don't want to be figuring this shit out in week 1. Again, no game planning. I get that. You're just going out there mano a mano and things happen sometimes. But Allen had his moments where he was able to connect with some of his guys. Primarily, he was able to connect with Gabe Davis. And there was a beautiful connection down the sideline after a penalty had made it like 3rd and like 19. And he hits Gabe Davis with a dime down the sideline for like 23. And then that's negated with another penalty. And I think they ended up in a 3rd and like 34 situation themselves, did the Bills, after having a first down converted. They had a lot of penalties in this game. They were shooting themselves in the foot. But I wouldn't really worry so much as about the offense as I am the defense. I'm not sure that their defense, and again, I'm assuming Von Miller and all those guys will be ready week 1 and they'll be much better. I haven't been impressed with anything I've seen from them this preseason. Defense, offense, and I don't care, second, third team, those guys are going to play too, So we'll see with the Bills. Allen looks fine. He looks to be in midseason form. There was one play where he eluded the rush, ran backwards, spun, all this bullshit he was doing. I was like, that's Josh Allen, man. He's going to be just fine. That offense is going to be just fine. But I'm not blown away by their defense right now. But again, a lot of their defenders probably aren't playing. We'll see what they look like when we get to week 1. We start game planning, all that good stuff. Colts and Bears, nothing to see here. We didn't get the first round pick. Anthony Richardson for the Colts. I don't know why. We didn't get Justin Fields for the Bears. I don't know why. But again, those teams must have it figured out. Clearly, they got it figured out. Didn't need to play their starters. I don't give a shit if you got joint practices. You know, clearly Matt Eberflus is very chummy with the Colts organization. That's where he came from. So they probably had joint practices this week and felt like we don't need to play our starters. Good for you. Bless your soul. But both of those teams need to be playing their quarterbacks. Justin Fields threw 3 passes last week, and 2 of them were screens. And he doesn't need work? All right. Cool beans. Bucks and Jets. So this one here was interesting because the Bucks are still going through a quarterback competition, whatever that means. Baker Mayfield is going to be the starter week 1 for the Bucks, but they're going through the process, and I respect them for that. So this week, Baker Mayfield started last week. This week, they started Kyle Trask, and he played the entire first half. So I was interested to see what he would look like. I thought he actually looked good. You know, sans for his first possession. I wasn't blown away by the first possession of the game from him. But after that, I thought he actually played well. I was like, look at Kyle Trask. Why don't we? Now, he, as a matter of fact, I think I have it backwards. I think he started out really well, and then as it kept going, it got a little bit worse. But that first possession he came out, if not for a drop by David Moore, he's got him moving on offense. And that's a beautiful throw. And so this is the thing that I don't like about what the Bucs are doing with this competition. And I don't know the status of their receivers and if they're healthy or not. And I get it. Those guys are going to be ultimately what drives the vehicle. Whoever's at quarterback is kind of irrelevant because those guys are probably one and the same. You're not going to get a definitive advantage from either one. What's going to move the needle for you is your receivers. That's the strength of your football team right now. So you don't want to put – and they're veterans. You don't want to put them out there in the preseason, have something happen to them. But it's really hurting these quarterbacks in this competition because Kyle Trask probably scores a touchdown on the first possession of the game if he's got his real receivers out there. If that's Chris Godwin instead of David Moore, that's a catch. You know? That said, I thought he actually played solid football. You know? He's going to be the backup. Baker Mayfield is going to be a starter. He's going to be QB1. But I wasn't displeased with what I saw. Looks like he's making some strides. Is Kyle Trask, which is good to see because he's been there for a little while now, and you want to see him, you know, kind of get it. And so it seems like he's starting to get it a bit. Meanwhile, the Jets didn't play Aaron Rodgers, but they claim they're going to play him in week 3 of the preseason. We'll see how that turns out. Zach Wilson played the entire first half. Had a nice little run in there, but nothing really to write home about. Yeah, he was solid. You'll see it on Hard Knocks. Anyway, Patriots and Packers. And the Buccaneers won the game 13-6, if you were keeping score at home. Patriots, Packers. Patriots get the win 21-17. This was all about Jordan Love and Mac Jones. Who? Mac Jones. The mickety, Mac. Bo, the mickety, Mac. He didn't play last week. He played this week, did Mac Jones. I thought he did some good things in this game. I keep asking myself, who is he going to throw the football to? And the guy that consistently raises his hand and say, hey, me, over here. He's throwing it to me. Is wide receiver Kendrick Bourne that they got from San Francisco during the year where they had that spending spree in the offseason when they went out and signed, 8 tight ends, 5 wide receivers, offensive linemen, 6 defenders, and 9 kickers that year. I think it was like 3 years ago when they did that. He was one of the guys, low-key signing. Everybody got kind of blinded by some of the other signings like Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry and those guys. And you didn't really pay attention to Kendrick Bourne. I like him a lot. I liked him back in San Francisco. So he was making some plays in this game, man. Mac Jones is pretty much number 1 receiver. There's one play where Mac is under duress, kind of throws it up to give his guy a shot. And this dude climbs a ladder. Like, this looked like every bit of 42-inch vertical. I'm going up here and I'm going to get it for my guy. Snags it out of the air. with a defender draped all over him. It was good. It was impressive. Mac Jones led them on a scoring drive down the field. It ended off, I think it ended up being capped off by a rushing touchdown, but Mac did his part on that drive to make sure that they got down there. So I thought he did some good things. He's their starter. You know, there was this conversation about Bailey Zappi and is it time for Zappi hour? Nah, I'm good. Mac Jones is the guy there. And as far as the Packers are concerned and Jordan Love, the first possession was abysmal for Jordan Love. I was like, yeah. After last week, you know, having the first couple of possessions go, you know, solidly, and then, you know, capping off his night with a touchdown pass. That first possession was yuck. But then after that, I thought he looked really smooth. He settled in. He started making plays. He found the easy targets. Like, yeah, just take the layup, bro. Like, you don't have to prove that you this, you know, supremely gifted athlete. You don't need to do the 540, right? Windmill, you know, behind your back. Just make the layup, bro. And he started taking the layup and, you know, finding the underneath tight end and started working the ball to all these different targets. And then a couple of guys made some tough catches, man. Romeo Doubs made a tough catch over the middle. Then he made another tough catch down the sideline. Like, whoa. And then he fit a ball into the rookie, Jaden Reed, who I might have to offer up a 0-0 to. I've already, you know, said it last week. Like, I think I might be wrong about this kid and the Packers taking him when they did. But he makes a tough catch for the touchdown. And, you know, it capped off what started off as a rough evening, but ended, you know, really well. And again, all's well that ends well. And it ended really well for Jordan Love. He's still got a lot of work to do. They've got a lot of work to do, but he's showing flashes, and he showed flashes in each of the first 2 preseason games. Like, the Packers aren't going to just be a walkover, and they're going to be in the mix when it comes playoff time. I don't know if they're going to make it, but they're going to be in the mix. I just know that. If he's healthy and they stay relatively healthy with the pieces that they put around him, I think that they're going to have a shot to be in the postseason. We'll see. Titans and Vikings. I'm going to reluctantly talk about this game because obviously the Vikings didn't play anybody, but the Titans they did play Malik Willis pretty much the entire game. So in the joint practices during the course of the week, there was an injury to Will Levis. This is a brief one. It's nothing serious, but it's the preseason. If there's anything, if I sneeze wrong and I feel a twinge in my neck, I'm sitting out of the preseason game. Okay. So it left Malik Willis to play the entire game essentially. And he had his moments. The athleticism is definitely there. There's times where the arm talent is definitely there and he's accurate. But right now, one of my biggest complaints with him is he doesn't know any other speed but 98-mile-an-hour fastball. Everything is thrown on a frozen rope. And you're like, bro, just take some off. Give guys a chance. Jesus. A lot of balls that could have been caught if he would have just, 92 miles an hour on the fastball. That's it. I'm not telling you don't throw the heater. Just dial it back a bit. Don't rear back and fling it as hard as you can. Then there were some inaccurate throws where you go, come on, you can't miss that, man. Balls that skip the guys and you're like, bro, seriously? So you're going to throw that one over the middle to a tight end at 99 on the radar gun. Now he's wide open on a deep over route with nobody in sight, and you're going to throw a 76-mile-an-hour changeup that skips to him? Make it make sense. So that's kind of the thing you're fighting with Malik Willis right now is consistency. But I like some of the things I saw. I don't love everything that I've seen from him, but, there's some things you can work. There's some workable traits. I'll say this. He looks a lot better than Trey Lance. We're going to get there eventually. Titans win the game 24-16. Oh, let me just mention one more guy in that game. Julius Chestnut. Okay. He played with the Titans last year, so that shouldn't be a new name for you if you're a fiend like myself. But for the casual observer, that's a name that was really interesting. And look, he should never really see the field unless they carve out a niche for him. I think at a bare minimum, there could be a third down niche for him because he made a great catch on a touchdown from Malik Willis. Yeah, like, is that a receiver? Shit, he might be the Titans' third best receiver catching the ball like that. But he had some great runs. He caught it really well out of the backfield. Tajay Spears had a great 33 or 32-yard touchdown run where he leaps over the safety. Louie, their third-round pick out of Georgia, jumped right over his ass and ran for a touchdown. They got some stuff at running back, do the Titans. You know they always invest in their offensive line. I'm right now, I'm asleep, and I'm going to continue to sleep on the Titans. You can wake me up if they actually start playing some good football, but I wouldn't be shocked if they find a way to play good football behind an offensive line and a run game that has been dominant for the last 5 years or so. If they are able to do that, I can see the Titans finding a way to be relevant in that division. Again, not a great division. So anyway, Chiefs, Cardinals. Chiefs get the win 38-10. This wasn't as clean of a start to the game for the Chiefs. That's the second week in a row. They played their starters the first preseason game against New Orleans. One possession. They went for it on fourth down, didn't get it, and that was it. So it wasn't really a lot to chew on there. But here, they left Mahomes and company out there for at least 3 or 4 possessions. They weren't overly impressed with what they saw, and I don't blame them. And they settled in eventually. They had some penalties, too, that hurt them, that kind of derailed drives that were going well. And some of these calls in the preseason are just bogus. And I get it. I know what the NFL is trying to do. They love to reinforce and put extra emphasis on specific calls in the preseason where it doesn't have as big of an effect on the outcome of a game. Or if it does, nobody cares. It's a preseason game. But just to let teams know, hey, this is what we're cracking down on. We don't want to have to bust you over the head in the regular. Some of these, defenseless receiver and helmet to helmet and unnecessary roughness calls have been just egregious in the preseason. But nonetheless, they finally got it into high gear. The Chiefs, they scored a touchdown with their first team offense. The Cardinals they're going to stink. I don't know if Kyler Murray coming back helps. They're going to stink. They're not very good on offense. I'm intrigued by their defense, though. I do think that they may have some life on defense. And their defense could lead to some scoring opportunities for their offense. But their offense stinks, man. I mean, Colt McCoy is Colt McCoy. And unless they got some excellent schemers over there, and it's not because they're void of talent. They got some stuff. It's just Colt McCoy with that stuff doesn't scare you. That's basically what it boils down to. But anyway, I digress. Let's get to the next game on the docket, and that is Broncos and 49ers. So this game ended up 21-20 in favor of the San Francisco 49ers. So first thing that's jumped out at me this preseason is Russell Wilson and company played for the second straight game and played significant snaps for the second straight game. 49ers featured Brock Purdy for the first time since he had that elbow injury in the NFC Championship game. So it was good to see Brock Purdy, and we'll talk about him in a second. Let's start with the Broncos and Russell Wilson. The first thing that has been noticeable about them this offseason, or this preseason rather, is Russell Wilson is in tremendous shape. I think last year he was smelling himself. He was running that entire organization. He had 57 parking spots. He had parking spots for his entourage. His quarterback's coach was in the building. There's a lot of shit going on there, right? He might have put on an extra couple pounds. What's it going to hurt, right? He couldn't run last year. Remember, that was one of the things we kept talking about. Like, he won't run. He can't run. And I kept saying, if he can't run anymore, that impacts who he is as a football player, because one of the redeeming qualities of Russell Wilson was his escapability and his ability to break your back on a 3rd and 7 with a scramble for 9 yards. If he can't do that anymore, they're going to suck. And that's part of the reason their offense stunk last year, is because he wasn't a runner for the most part last year. A lot of sacks. Offensive line wasn't very good, but he wasn't very good. And he wasn't helping them by using his legs. He cut a lot of weight. He's in tremendous shape. He's back to the Seattle Seahawks Russ mode, and he was taking off on the 49ers' ass in this game. And if that's any indication of what we're getting, and they even used him in a read option and he kept it. Like, I don't know if we saw that all year last year. Anyway, he looked sharp, did Russell Wilson. He looked sharper than last week. They scored a touchdown. He, I think, is starting to get into a rhythm in Sean Payton's offense. They got weapons. We've always said that about Denver. They got talent. It's never been the question. But if they can put it together, they could be formidable in that AFC West. They'll fit right in with the rest of those teams. Quality defense, capable offense. They'll fit right in with the Chargers and the Chiefs and the Raiders. I thought this was a better showing than last week, when he practically kept them in against the 4th stringers of the Cardinals, because, they couldn't get right. Drop passes and missed field goals and things of that nature. 49ers put Brock Purdy out on the field with the starters, and immediately they got busy. They go bootleg, Shanahan in the boots. They go bootleg, and Deebo Samuel comes screaming across the formation. He gets it to him, and right off the bat, Deebo's got like a 37-yard game. You're like, oh, shit, here we go. And they moved it down the field. It was a really impressive drive, and then they kind of got stagnant inside the 10-yard line and couldn't convert on the 3rd down. And it's the preseason. I was like, and they were booing Kyle. I would have booed him too. What are we doing here, man? Unless you've got some kind of kicking competition, and what are we really proving by sending the field goal kicker out for a 22-yard field goal? Like, what are we accomplishing here? It's the preseason, dude. It's 4th and 2 from the 4-yard line. Why not go for it, man? Like, what are we doing right now? Seriously. But he opted for the field goal. I mean, I ain't mad at him, but I ain't glad at him. And that was the last we saw of Brock Purdy. It was impressive. He came out. He did his thing. He threw the ball a little bit. Looked really good. The legs worked. They were never an issue. The arm works. He's back. So that puts a lot of that to rest. Don't need to see him until week 1 against the Steelers. That'll be a much different challenge and task. But it's good to see him back on the football field, because Trey Lance and Sam Darnold right now, they both stink. Sam a lot less than Trey. Trey, I wouldn't be shocked. This is the honest to God truth. They're not going to do this. I wouldn't be shocked if they cut him. If the 49ers said, we only need 2 quarterbacks on the roster, we don't need a 3rd, I wouldn't be shocked if they cut Trey Lance. He's been that bad this preseason. He was horrible in this game. And I don't know if anybody would pick him up. Like, somebody would sign him, but I don't think anybody would claim him on waivers, is what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if any team would put in a waiver claim for him. I think he would clear waivers, and then someone would sign him to their practice squad. And I'm pretty sure the 49ers would be open to it. But they tried to trade him. Remember, okay, a reminder to all of y'all, they tried to trade him this offseason, and everybody was like, nah, we good. No thanks. They were like, man, just give us a 6th-round pick. They was like, nah, we good. We'll hold on to our 6th rounder. Come on, bro. How about a conditional 7th? And they was like, yeah, kind of like my 7th-round pick more than Trey Lance right now. But maybe next time. So they couldn't give him away. I don't know, with the new rule that they implemented, where if you got 3 guys on the roster, the 3rd one won't count towards the game day roster. That may entice some teams to keep a 3rd quarterback on the roster. But if I'm really talented and I need the roster spot, I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Anyway, Raiders, Rams, nothing to see here. Oh, I lied. Jimmy Garoppolo played, and he actually didn't look bad. He actually didn't look bad. He spread the ball around, got a lot of receivers involved. It was good to see Michael Mayer in there, get a grab as well. The rookie tight end out of Notre Dame, the Golden Domer. They moved it right down the field. They scored a touchdown, and that was it for Jimmy. Good for him. They've continued to look really impressive on offense. This is great. It's the preseason. I don't know if this carries over into the regular season or not, but they got great news. Josh Jacobs is going to report here shortly, which is what we thought would happen. He's not going to miss any game checks. I'm not fighting to get to training camp. I'm not fighting to be going through practice and beat my body up for a team that doesn't want to give me a long-term deal. But I'll show up when the checks start rolling in come week 1. I'll see you then. So he'll be showing up here probably promptly after the 3rd preseason game. He'll be reporting to the Raiders. So all's well that ends well in Vegas right now. They're playing good preseason ball, scoring a bunch of points. Jimmy Garoppolo got out there, led a touchdown drive, looked actually pretty good doing it. Good for the Raiders. We'll see if that carries over to the regular season. Cowboys and Seahawks. We know the Cowboys make it a practice and a habit of not playing their starters. So it wasn't a lot there from them. But the Seahawks played Geno Smith. Geno. Oh, Geno. Always good to see my guy Geno. And Geno played well. I thought Geno did some really good things. Put some balls right on the money. And, some good defensive plays. But also some guys just not making some plays for Geno. All in all, I said, Geno, you look sharp, man. I don't think I think his lone scoring possession was a 57-yard field goal. Must be nice when your kicker's banging it home from 57 in the preseason. But Geno was fine. He was fine in the game. I'm trying to think, was there anything that I saw in particular from Dallas? I felt like there. Oh yeah. DeMarvion Overshown, the rookie 3rd-round linebacker who they had high hopes for, tore his I think it was his ACL, man. You never like to hear that. Devin Achane went down in the Dolphins game with a shoulder injury. He was carted off, but it's a shoulder, and I think he'll be okay. Whereas Overshown's season is done. And he was going to add a lot of speed. Like, he was going to play a lot for them this year because of how fast he is and athletic he is. He's going to add another, dimension to their defense. So that's a tough break for Dallas. You never want to see that. Jalen Tolbert, and I'll just go into little specifics for the Cowboys because they're a family member. So you got to keep your friends close and your enemies even closer. Jalen Tolbert looks good. He was making some plays in this game. And so he could be a weapon for them this season. We'll see what he ends up being for them. They did some good things on offense with Cooper Rush out there. So we already know Dallas is a talented football team. So none of that comes as a surprise. And then the only game in town on Sunday was Saints and Chargers. Both failed to post starting quarterbacks. So I failed to post for this game. So that is your week 2 runaround. A lot of good stuff. Most games featured at least one starting quarterback in a slew of starting caliber players. Let's see. Out of the 16 games, and Washington and the Ravens are tonight, and the Commanders are going to play their starters. The Ravens will not. That's not uncommon. That's what they do. Ever since John Harbaugh had the injury to J.K. Dobbins 2 years ago, he's been really, really careful in the preseason. So they're not going to play Lamar Jackson, Odell Beckham Jr., Mark Andrews. None of those guys are playing tonight. And I think Tyler Huntley injured himself against the Eagles last week, so he's not playing either. So you're going to get a steady diet of Josh Johnson and Anthony, whatever his name is, from Oregon. But you'll at least get one starting crew in this game, right? So of all the 16 games, I'm going to guess that only 4 of them featured teams that didn't put any of their starting quarterbacks on the field. Saints Chargers is 1. Let's see. Titans Vikings is 2, but I watched anyway because they have the young boys out there, Malik Willis and Will Levis didn't play in the game, but still wanted to see what Malik was doing. But that's 2. Bucks Jets. I still wanted to see Kyle Trask, but he's not starting, and neither is Zach Wilson. So that's 3. Bears Colts is 4. Jags Lions 5. And Browns Eagle is 6. So 6 out of the 16 games, that's not bad. I mean, last year it was like 12 teams, 12 games out of 16 where you weren't seeing any starters. So far cry from that. But anyway, I digress. Good action around the league. My palate has been moisturized, and I feel good going into this third and final week of preseason, because if I don't get anything, I feel good. I feel like I'm up to speed where I need to be, and I'm ready for week 1. All right. Anyway, I digress. Got a super chat. Going to go ahead and take that, and I will get out of here. Don't really see any comments that I need to read. So I'll take this super, and then we will move on. Ethan Dykes, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Ethan, writes, Lou, I'm way too pumped for just a preseason game, but what about Jones Jr. has been so impressive? Also, we have had too much talent at receiver to keep just 6. I'm not as pumped. I'm excited for tonight's game, but I've over the years, I'm never more excited than the first preseason game. Once I get that out of my system, the first time I see the fellas for that particular year, I'm amped for that. After I get that in my system, now I'm ready for the regular season. So I'm not super amped tonight. I'm excited about the opportunity because we're the only show in town. They're going to talk. Troy Aikman and Joe Buck are going to talk a lot about Sam Howell tonight. Like, this is his opportunity on a big stage to at least show, hey, I'm finna shit on y'all this year. I hope y'all know that. Get your Charmin ready, because I'm finna shit on y'all this year. This is his chance to show that. Go out here, go 6 or 7 on the first possession with a touchdown pass to Terry McLaurin to end the drive, and have that be it. 6 or 7, 53 yards, touchdown, and let's watch the rest of the game on the sidelines. That's what I want. How it'll go, I don't know. As long as we come out of this thing healthy, I really am fine either way. As long as we come out of this thing healthy. That's the most important thing. But as far as Andre Jones Jr., he's been really good, man. He's been impressive in camp. I was impressed with him, and they were too. And I think that's what prompted them to give him first team reps during the joint practices with the Ravens. He was really good in the Browns game. If you watch that game back, you'll see him get pressure 2 or 3 times in that game. You'll see him be effective against the run. You see constant hustle out of him. He is setting that edge. They run boot to his side. He's staying at home first. Then he's being aggressive, getting after the quarterback. Just constant hustle out of him. The motor ran hot the entire game. There's a lot to like there. And he was better than the 5th round draft pick, KJ Henry. So there's that. As far as the receiver position and having too much talent to keep just 6, they may ultimately decide that. They may ultimately decide we have too much talent at receiver and not enough at running back or linebacker or tight end to keep an extra guy there. I was talking with Red Wing 01, I want to say it was last week, and I keep talking about Alex Arma, and I thought he said something that was really profound. He was like, hey, look, I wouldn't be shocked if they're cool with 3 running backs, cool with 3 tight ends, because you really don't have a ton of talent at either position necessarily. I mean, running back, I think there's some talent there, but you can stash those guys on the practice squad if you need to, right? And you could just keep Alex Arma as an in-between for each position, so he could double as a 4th tight end or a 4th running back, right? That saves you 2 roster spots if you do it that way, instead of just having Alex Arma be a fullback by himself on the roster. You add him to the running back position, you could add him to the tight end position, and that would save you a roster spot or 2. And you could then reallocate that to, say, defensive end. We talked about 5 versus 6. Or you could do it at receiver. We've talked about, 5 versus 6. We know it's not going to be 5. The number we've settled on is 6, but they've kept 7 before. 2 years ago, they kept 7 when they kept Dax Milne and they kept DeAndre Carter. So we've seen them do this before. So again, was Dax Milne a rookie last year or the year before that? I think it was 2 years ago when they drafted Dax Milne. I think this is year 3 for Dax. Who else was in that draft? Yeah, this is year 3 because that was the 7th round with him, William Bradley King, and Shaka Toney. And all of those guys are going into year 3. So 2 years ago, they kept Dax Milne and DeAndre Carter on the roster. So they've kept 7 before. That could be the difference between 6 or 7 is, trimming off some fat somewhere else. We'll see. I still think the number is 6. And until they prove me, until they show me otherwise, I think that number is going to be 6. But anyway, I digress. So see. Rushman says Lance led the team the last 2 drives down the field to victory. If you really want me to get excited about third string guys and guys that aren't going to be in the league after these cuts are made, go right ahead. Knock yourself out. That's excellent. But when my quarterback that I drafted in the first round, 3rd overall in year 3 is if that's what I'm bragging about, and I don't know if you're a fan of the 49ers or not. And I'm not talking to you directly. I'm just saying in general. If that's what I'm supposed to be getting excited about, my 3rd year, 1st round, 3rd overall pick in year 3, that he is scoring on the final 2 drives of a preseason game against 3rd and 4th stringers, if that's what's supposed to get me excited and juiced up, Houston, we have a problem. So when there was still a semblance of 2nd stringers that were trickling out of the game with the 3rd stringers, he struggled mightily. Should have thrown a pick if he wasn't so inaccurate on a particular ball over the middle to the tight end that it wasn't picked off. If he was accurate at all, it would have been picked off. So, yeah, he's been struggling, man. He's been struggling. It's Sam Darnold's job to lose in terms of the backup position. So, anyway, he was supposed to be pushing Brock Purdy for the starting position this year, mind you. Like, there was supposed to be a real, genuine competition. Like, they were supposed to be mulling over, what do we do? He was supposed to be building his stock up to the point that if they wanted to move him, they could this preseason, this offseason. They can't. They can't move him. So, again, that's cool that he led the last 2 touchdown drives to win the game. That's awesome. That's supposed to be reserved for the guy that's either not making your team as the 3rd quarterback or a guy that is going to make the team as a 3rd quarterback on your roster that you're not worried about because he's never going to play, or he shouldn't at least. That's cool, right? That's usually reserved for the undrafted guy, the 5th round pick that you're, developing, and the developmental prospect, not the number, 3 overall pick from 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So anyway, I digress. Red Wing 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, I just realized I lost my mob status. Gonna have to re-up that later. Says, anyway, I've been pretty impressed by some of those late round rookie quarterbacks. Some of them have played really well. I'm not gonna lie to you. Generally, I don't stick around for the entire game, the duration. If, like, for instance, for Trey Lance, I stuck around to the end. I just wanted to see what was going to happen. Like certain teams, like for Malik Willis, I stuck around to the end. He played the entire game. I wanted to see. At one point, he came out of the game They didn't have another quarterback to play. He was out of breath. He was winded. So they stuck in a wide receiver at quarterback and ran like Wildcat 2 plays in a row until he, got himself together. He probably couldn't find his helmet. That's probably what happened. But whatever the case may be, I stuck around for those types where I was interested to see what they were going to do. But like Aiden O'Connell, nah, I didn't stick around for that. Sorry. You want me to get excited about Aiden O'Connell. And they may have something there. They really may have something there. I'm not interested. And not until I need to be. So it's the preseason. It's, third stringers, fourth stringers playing in the game at the end. I'm good. So some of these, we talked about this already. DTR, stupid impressed with him. Like, ridiculously impressed with him. Like, guys like that who you're referring to, yeah. You're probably talking about Aiden O'Connell as well. He's been really good. Yeah, you'll get no pushback from me. A lot of these quarterbacks have been really, really solid, man. A lot of these guys are showing that. And again, I go back to experience. Same thing with Brock Purdy last year. Guys that play a ton of college football, look out for those guys. Not all of them are going to blossom into great NFL quarterbacks or anything like that. All right, but understand that the more you play, what did I say earlier? What did I say at the top of the show? The only way you get better at football is by actually playing football. And when you get a quarterback who's been a starter for 3 or 4 years, they played a lot of football. They've seen a lot of defenses, and they've made a lot of mistakes. So you know what that's done? It's built up a callus. So mentally, they're tougher. When you've only played 1 season as a starter and you go to the NFL, or you play 2 seasons as a starter and you go to the NFL, you didn't build up a callus. You didn't build up that tolerance for making mistakes, especially if you play at a major program like Ohio State or Alabama, and you didn't have the trials and tribulations, the ups and the downs. You didn't build up that mental, that mental toughness and intestinal fortitude that, hey, I might have just blew it for my team this week. I made a big mistake there. We're no longer in the discussion for a playoff berth. But how do we rally and still make it to a bowl game? When you watch these guys, and you're seeing a lot of them, the DTRs and the Aiden O'Connells of the world, and some of these younger quarterbacks getting opportunities, they play a lot of football, man. Aiden O'Connell played a lot of football. DTR played a lot of football, man. So when you see some of these young quarterbacks taking advantage, I'm hearing that Tyson Bagent, the backup in Chicago, he's like, their head coach Matt Eberflus said, hey, he's got a legitimate shot at being our backup quarterback. Like, no bullshit. Tyson Bagent played a lot of football. I don't give a shit it's Division II. He played a lot of football. He showed that he belonged at the combine. We talked about it like, hey, look, I'm not saying, I know it's combine. I know it's T-shirt and underwear's Olympics. I'm aware. But for the quarterbacks, you just out there slinging it. He looked like he belonged. It didn't look too big for him. So anyway, I digress. Stetson Bennett, you mentioned him too. I watched zero. I boycott Rams games. Boycott Rams games. They don't give a shit about the preseason. Neither do I. So I don't watch Rams games at all unless the team they're playing, and generally they play against teams who don't participate in the preseason either. So I have a firm stance on the Rams. F them in the preseason. So I couldn't tell you what Stetson Bennett's doing. But good for him. I told you I liked Stetson Bennett when he came out of Georgia. So I'm not surprised. Anyway, I digress. So that is the final super chat. And I don't have any real comments that I need to read. So I thought preseason week number 2 was really informative. I learned a lot. I was struggling with where all these young tight ends went. I learned where most of them are this week. This is the problem with not doing the draft wrap-up series. I don't know where the hell anybody went. So it was good to find out that Luke Musgrave is in Green Bay, right? Michael Mayer is in Vegas with the Raiders, and the Utah kid, Dalton Kincaid, is in Buffalo. Like, I didn't know where all of them went. I was talking to my buddy the other day, and he's like, yeah, where did all these tight ends go? I'm like, damn, that's a good question. I could only think about one of them. I was like, you guys got one of them, right? You guys got the Golden Domer, right? He's like, yeah, we got Michael Mayer. I couldn't tell you where Dalton Kincaid went. I couldn't tell you where Luke Musgrove. I knew Green Bay got one of the tight ends. I just didn't know which one. I think Detroit got one of them, right? Didn't they get him a second-round tight end or something like that too? Like, I know that the Steelers got Washington out of Georgia, but yeah, this is why the preseason is necessary for me too. Because I got to figure out where the hell, when you don't play guys though, it's hard for me to know. But figuring some shit out. So anyway, I digress. Luck, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Luck writes, I'm on my way, Holmes. Let's turn this mother effer up. Blunts rolled in 17 jersey, dusted off. I think I got a little fat this offseason, Holmes. Let's get it. It's good to have you back, man. One thing I can say, you've kept me on my toes to the point that when you're not even around, your presence is still felt. So no worries. Good to have you back. It's like you never left, because I was always speculating that it's bad, because I feel bad for some people, because if you write an incoherent message or something that's open-ended and it sounds suspicious, you're Luck. Even if that person's never heard of Luck, you're Luck. So welcome back, man. I've missed you. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. And now that you're back and the team is playing ball, you'll probably shed those pounds real quick, because they'll be giving you heart attacks on a weekly basis. Or unless this offense with Sam Howell under center and EB leading the charge, all of a sudden it's scoring points and you don't have to sweat it out. The likelihood is you will be sweating out victories, because that's what we do. And it'll lead to some loss of weight. So welcome back, man. 24-year Snyder survivor. Stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB. I love the name, by the way. Bob, you know what to do. Welcome this battered and bruised and scarred individual 24-year Snyder survivor with open arms. Get him a blanket, something to drink, and assure him that the bad man is never coming back again and that he's safe here with us. Okay? Okay? Ensure him that he is safe with us, and we will take care of him. He is in good hands, like Allstate. Welcome aboard. We are so glad to have you. We too have been through some of the worst of times, but now we are embarking upon some of the best of times, and we want you to come along for the ride with us. So let us help you get over some of those scars, some of those demons, because it is time for us to rise like a phoenix out of the ashes. Here we come. NFC East. You've been warned. 24-year Snyder survivor. Welcome to the squad. Glad to have you. And on that note, we are out of here. You guys enjoy the rest of your Monday. For those of you who are Washington fans, you know where you'll find me at about 11:15 p. later on tonight. You know where to find me. For the rest of you, I'll see you tomorrow. LouieTeeNetwork podcast. We'll pick up on our divisional breakdowns. We'll give out the look at the schedule, give out records. The next division up, I think, is the AFC South. I know you're not really looking forward to that. I think that's the next division. But we got to do them all. So bear with me. Anyway, I digress. You guys, enjoy the rest of your day. I will see you guys later. Feels good. Feels good. Commanders are on the tube tonight. Should be a lot of fun. Bart Scott. Can't wait. Have a good one. You almost didn't get it in, man. You guys got to be faster, okay? You can't be sending super chats at the end. I just was about to get out of here, and I saw this at the last second. Mr. HTTR, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, I listened to an Arizona pod. They think they're going to put 40 on us, shaking my head. The disrespect is killing me. Everybody, that's circulating around Washington circles right now. Everybody, I've been sent that little excerpt from that podcast at least 7 times. That's cool, man. Like, what do you expect people to think about us? Seriously, that's Arizona. That's an Arizona Cardinals podcast. How many wins do you think they have on the schedule? Seriously, be honest with yourself. How many wins do you think the Arizona Cardinals have on their schedule? I can tell you right now, they won't be favored in very many games. They know that. So one of the games they're looking at and saying, hey, we better get us one, is Washington. And that's how you convince yourself. When you think you've got a shot, you got to start convincing yourself these are the reasons why we can win this game. And the easiest, most low-hanging fruit reason that you can beat Washington right now is Sam Howell. Who is this guy? He's a low-level quarterback. He only beat Dallas. He's got 1 start under his belt. This is coming from a fan base, mind you, who's going to be starting Colt McCoy week 1, right? That doesn't bother me. If you think this is an easy dub, reach. Go ahead, reach out and grab it. See what happens to your goddamn hand. You'll be lucky if we don't chop that shit off. You feeling froggy? Reach. Reach for the dub. You might get a nub back. That's how I feel. Go ahead, reach. I dare you. I double dog dare you. Reach for the dub. Get your shit chopped off. Not my problem. Those who don't hear, feel. I told you a wise woman told me that a long, long time ago. Those who don't hear, they feel. They'll find out week 1. Don't you worry. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. You guys, get out of here. I'll see you much, much later. Take care.